If you had told me that my wife would bring her affair partner to our 20th wedding anniversary dinner, I would have thought you were high. Or drunk. Or maybe just bitter from your own divorce. Because in my mind, Karen and I were solid. Not perfect, but solid. The kind of marriage that survives the small betrayals, the missed birthdays, the arguments over bills, and the compromises that come with raising 2 kids and trying to keep a house from collapsing. She picked the restaurant. Fancy place downtown with candles on the table and menus with no prices. One of those, if you have to ask, you shouldn't be here, kind of joints. She made the reservation a month in advance. Wear the navy suit, she texted me the day before. The one that makes you look like a senator. It wasn't until we were seated that I noticed the third menu. We expecting company? I asked, forcing a smile as the waiter poured our water. Karen didn't even blink. Yeah. I thought it'd be nice to bring someone along. Before I could ask who, he arrived. Late 30s, smug face, hair too perfect to be natural. He kissed Karen on the cheek like they'd known each other forever, then sat down across from me. Ben, she said, casually gesturing between us. This is Ryan. I didn't shake his hand. I just looked at her. Ryan's been staying with us for a few weeks. I figured it was time you two met. Staying with us? I repeated, not fully understanding what I was hearing. Living, she corrected, sipping her wine. He's living with us now. There are moments in a man's life when the brain doesn't quite know how to process reality. It just sits there, buffering, waiting for the punchline. This was one of those moments. I looked at Ryan. He looked back like he was the one doing me a favor. I stood up, slowly, deliberately. Not angrily. Just steady. And I looked at Karen and said, Enjoy your dinner. I didn't storm out. Didn't throw a fit. I just walked. Out the door. Down the street. Past the valet who looked confused that I didn't hand him a ticket. I walked until my phone buzzed in my pocket. It was Karen. Karen, don't be dramatic. Come back. We need to talk. I didn't reply. Not because I didn't have something to say, but because I wasn't ready to say it yet. This wasn't the end. It was the beginning of something else. Something colder. I didn't sleep that night. Not because I couldn't. Because I didn't want to. Sleep meant rest, and rest meant I was accepting something. I wasn't. Not yet. I drove out to the old cabin my dad left me after he passed. The one I hadn't touched in 5 years except for Christmas Eve beers and deer season. It still had no heat, smelled like firewood and neglect, but it had one thing I needed: silence. I sat in the old recliner, staring at the ash in the fireplace, going over every moment from the past 6 months. The late-night texts. The perfume that didn't smell like hers. The locked phone. The sudden interest in spinning classes and spa weekends she never invited me to. The signs were there. I just didn't want to see them. Around 3 a.m., I opened my laptop. Not to vent. Not to write a letter I'd never send. No. I started making folders. One called Finances. Another called Evidence. A third called Options. This wasn't grief. This was planning. Karen thought she'd embarrass me, made me into a joke. But what she didn't know is, I don't break loud. I break quiet. And when I rebuild, I make sure it's with sharper edges. By dawn, I had copies of our bank records downloaded, backups of our texts archived, and a list of passwords I remembered from her lazy days when she reused the dog's name and her birth year. I called in sick to work with a voice hoarse from exhaustion. My boss said, "Take the time you need." Good. I would. Because I had one goal now. To make sure that when Karen's new fantasy life fell apart, and oh, it would, I wouldn't be the one picking up the pieces. I'd be the one holding the match. The first real move wasn't dramatic. It wasn't loud. It was an email. I sent it from a freshly created Gmail account, with a name vague enough to seem forgettable. The recipient? Karen's HR director. Subject line: possible ethics concern. The body of the email was short, polite, and anonymous. I wrote, "Dear name, you may want to review the company policy on supervisors engaging in relationships with subordinates. Specifically, look into Karen Taylor's recent travel expenses and her companion on 2 of those trips. No accusations, no threats. Just breadcrumbs." I attached screenshots. A few expense reports I'd pulled from our shared drive when she forgot to log out. 2 boarding passes. One showing her seat. One showing Ryan's. Different last names, same itinerary. Same hotel. Same conference. By the time I hit send, I felt calmer than I had in days. This wasn't about revenge. It was about correction. I'd spent years covering for her, defending her to friends, family, even our kids when she disappeared for work again. Now, I was done being the shield. Let the truth do what it does best, ruin the fiction. Next, I called someone I hadn't spoken to in years, Eli Mason. Old friend. Corporate lawyer. Also, the guy who helped me write our prenup back in the day when love still felt invincible. "Ben," he said, "what took you so long? You free for lunch?" "I'm buying," he replied. Over burgers and bad coffee, I told him everything. The dinner. The affair. Ryan moving into my damn house. "You still have that clause about infidelity?" he asked. "Page 6, I said. He whistled low. "Then, my friend, you're going to be just fine." That night, back at the cabin, I opened a new document, a timeline. I listed every trip she took in the past 2 years. Cross-checked her texts. Pulled calendar events from our shared family planner. It was all there. The overlap. The lies. The pattern. She hadn't made a mistake. She'd built a system. But I had one now too. And mine came with lawyers, records, and a very long memory. Tomorrow, I'd visit the bank. The bank was quiet. Mid-morning on a weekday, mostly retirees and business owners. I walked in with a folder under my arm and an expression that said, "Don't ask questions." Her name was Allison. She was the same branch manager who gave Karen and me our first joint account 15 years ago. She didn't recognize me at first, new haircut, colder eyes. But the moment she saw my name on the file, her tone changed. "Mr. Taylor, what can we do for you today?" I handed her the folder. Inside, printed statements, legal forms, a copy of our prenup. "I need to restructure everything." She took a moment to flip through the paperwork. When she saw the clause underlined in red, the one that voided Karen's rights to my assets in the event of infidelity, her brows lifted slightly. "I see." In 1 hour, I split our joint accounts, froze any automatic transfers, opened an escrow account under my name, and moved every dollar I had left into it. Legal, traceable, and protected. Karen had no idea. By lunchtime, I owned exactly 0 shared liabilities. Mortgage? Reassigned. Credit card? Closed. Savings? Transferred. I texted Eli. "It's done," he replied with a single word. "Impressive." That evening, I called the house. Ryan answered. "Hello?" I didn't say a word at first. Just let the silence stretch. "Ben? Is that you?" Still nothing. He hung up after 10 seconds. But that was enough. Enough to let him know I was still watching. Still around. Still dangerous. The next day, Karen texted me again. "Karen, I don't know what you're doing, but this isn't healthy. We need to talk." I ignored it. Because it was working. A day later, I got a call from my daughter. Dad? Mom's acting weird. Is everything okay? I took a breath. Everything's going exactly how it should. I didn't want to drag our kids into it, but I wouldn't lie to them either. Not anymore. 2 days later, I got an email from Karen's company. Formal. Polite. Requesting a statement regarding certain expenses that may involve me. I forwarded it to Eli. He said what I already knew. They're circling. And if she's dumb enough to deny it, they'll dig deeper. Good. Let them dig. She wanted to build a life on lies? I'd make sure it collapsed one brick at a time. Karen had always been about appearances. Designer bags, charity galas, carefully filtered Instagram posts captioned with faux inspirational quotes about love and perseverance. That was her kingdom, perception. So that's where I struck next. It started with a video. Not scandalous, not explicit, just honest. A slideshow of texts, emails, hotel receipts. Overlaid with calm narration, my voice, steady and deliberate. No venom, just facts. The soundtrack? Instrumental jazz. Casual. Disarming. I didn't post it on social media. That would have been too easy, and too chaotic. No, I sent it privately. To the inner circle. Her friends. Her sister. The PTA moms she gossiped with. The ones who always commented with hearts and #couple goals. The video was titled simply, What Happened to 20 Years? I knew when they watched it. My phone lit up with silent messages. Amy, I had no idea. I'm so sorry. Jen, that's horrifying. You didn't deserve this. Her sister, please call me. I had suspicions, but this is different. By the end of the day, Karen's online presence was wiped. Her social media pages locked down. Her smiling face disappeared behind privacy walls. The next morning, I walked into my office like it was any other day. Coffee in hand? Tie a little tighter than usual. My assistant looked up and blinked. Boss, you okay? Never better. And I meant it. Because while Karen and Ryan were scrambling to patch a sinking ship, I was already on a new one, charting a different course. At noon, Eli called. We've got movement. Karen's lawyer had reached out. No apology, no admission, just the usual. We want to resolve this amicably. I laughed. They're scared. Yep, Eli replied. And they should be. I've never seen this much prep on a personal case. You've got her cornered. That evening, I stopped by the house. Not to talk. Just to collect a few things. Karen opened the door. She looked smaller somehow. Less polished. The kind of woman who hadn't slept in days. You can't just destroy everything, she whispered. I paused at the threshold. You did that the moment you invited him to dinner. I made a mistake. No, I said. You made a choice. I stepped inside, walked past her, and picked up the box I had left in the closet. Old photos, my watch, the leather-bound journal where I'd written letters to her for years. She never knew about that journal. Now she never would. As I left, she called after me. Ben, do you still love me? I stopped, just long enough to say, I loved the version of you that loved me back. Then I closed the door. Quietly. Finally, 2 days after I closed that door, I got a message I didn't expect. From Ryan. Not a text. A letter. Handwritten. Left in the mailbox at the cabin, tucked in a plain envelope with just my name on the front. Ben. You don't know me, not really. And I won't pretend like I deserve your time. But I need to say something. I thought I was getting into a relationship with a woman who had left her marriage. I didn't know the whole truth. I didn't know about the dinner plans until the day of. I thought it was just dinner. I didn't know she would blindside you like that. If I had, I wouldn't have shown up. I didn't expect to move in. That wasn't my idea. I'm not trying to make excuses, I just want you to know I regret being part of it. I read it twice. Then a third time. Was it sincere? Maybe. Maybe not. But something about it didn't sit right, not because of what he said, but because of what it reminded me of. Karen had always made things look like accidents. She never liked confrontation. She preferred chess. Quiet moves. Controlled outcomes. Ryan didn't fall into her lap. She positioned the board, moved the pieces, and made him think it was his idea. That night, I burned the letter in the fireplace. Not out of spite. Out of closure. I was done carrying their guilt for them. 3 days later, I got a call from Eli. She's ready to settle. I didn't react. I just listened. No spousal support. You keep the house. She walks away with what she brought in and whatever's left in her personal account. That's it. That's it. I nodded, then remembered he couldn't see me. Okay. Want to draft a counter? No, I said. Let her have her out. Because at that point, it wasn't about punishment anymore. It was about peace. And I was starting to feel it. That weekend I went hiking. First time in years. Just me, a thermos of black coffee, and the sound of pine needles under my boots. I stood at the overlook where Karen and I once carved our initials into the railing. They were still there. Faded. Weathered. But there. I didn't touch them. Didn't take a photo. Just stood in silence, then turned around and walked away. Not with anger. But with clarity. The final paperwork came through on a Tuesday. No fanfare, no courtroom drama. Just a manila envelope in the mailbox with a return address I recognized from Eli's office. I opened it in the kitchen. The place felt bigger now. Not quieter, it had always been quiet, but lighter. Like someone had cracked a window after a long winter. The divorce was final. 20 years reduced to legal language and signatures. I didn't feel relief. Or sadness. I felt something harder to name. Something like stillness. I poured myself a glass of scotch. The good stuff I'd been saving for a moment worth remembering. Maybe this wasn't celebration material. But it was closure. A week later, I got a call from my daughter. She wanted to come visit. Just her. No Karen. No drama. Just time. Dad, she said, I miss you. I miss how things used to feel simple. They weren't simple. I said. You just didn't see the cracks yet. I know, she said. But you've always been the one holding things together. I guess I just thought you always would. I did too. I told her. Until I realized that holding it together doesn't mean letting it crush you. She was quiet for a moment, then said, Can I come up next weekend? You can come anytime. That weekend we grilled steaks. Watched an old movie. Laughed at stupid jokes we used to tell when she was a kid. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I was performing. I felt like I was just me. A man. A father. Still standing. Not broken. Just rebuilt. A month after that, I started seeing someone. Not serious. Not dramatic. Just human. Her name's Elena. She's got a garden that's more weeds than flowers and a laugh that sneaks up on you. She doesn't ask for stories I'm not ready to tell. She just sits with me sometimes. On the porch. In the quiet. With no need to fill the space. And that, I've learned, is its own kind of love. So yeah, I lost a wife. But I found something better. Myself.